Welcome to first introduction to a new package which was called pyIrena. Um, as an explanation, it is a Python version of Irena which I have developed over the last few months and which is currently available for installation on Windows, Macs, and Linux computers using PyPy. The tool really is a translation of Irena tools um, into Python with graphical interface and with a scripting capabilities. Over time, I intend to transfer most of the Irena capabilities into a pyIrena, so they can be used at the beamlines fully automatically, or they can be used by users at home, and we'll see where it goes in collaboration with Igor eventually. So here is where you can find most of the information, or at least some of the information. There would be the USAC's homepage. In a software tab, now we have a pyIrena page in which there's a description which you can see, and there's some basic information. To be fair, this is very short information. There's a lot more of it in GitHub, where currently the pyIrena resides. So if you go to the pyIrena at GitHub, you will find lots of documentation. Please note that pyIrena is basically vibe coded by Claude, various versions of Claude, depending on the complexity of the problem. Generally, that works out that I take the Igor tools in Igor code and pass them to Claude. Claude will evaluate what and how is done. Then I plan the programming, define what needs to be done, and then Claude executes the programming, and eventually there's a very, very long time of debugging various capabilities because there's a lot of typically smaller bugs and omissions which the AI still doesn't manage to do on a first attempt or even second attempt. The current release as of a moment when I am recording this is 0.6.0. The one which was last weekend when I was editing the web page was 0.4.6. In other words, this thing is going very, very fast. I have a plan for one or two more tools in the next week or so. So expect very rapid changes. The primary information is this does not have an installer, and for some time it will not have an installer. It is currently installable from PyPy, so you need to have a Python installation. There's a few other dependencies which you need to have, but basically once you have the working Python and you can install pip install packages, you just do pip install pyIrena square brackets GUI. There's a separate command for Macintosh, slightly different, but anyway. You can install it also from GitHub if you want directly, with Conda or with pip directly. And then there's an instructions. Basically, you install it and you run a pyIrena GUI, which is what I'm going to show you about. There are a few other packages which are mostly used for the beamline operations. We provide this at the beamline, and we use this package for automated data analysis, which is currently available at the USAC's instrument. Okay, so let me show you what pyIrena looks like. pyIrena is a package which does not have a common data container. Igor works with Igor experiments. and therefore Irena imports data in Igor experiment and it works in there. As a pyIrena, because the way it's intended to be used, it actually uses HDF5 files, which typically would come from an instrument. It can also import a um, ASCII file, text, in which case it will import the text and create the same name HDF5 file. When you start it, you will get a graphical interface like this. You will need to find some data to work with. So here is my USEX data example which I created, and in here I have list of the HDF5 files. Here is a list of tools. The left column contains tools which starts the graphical interface. So every tool has its own dedicated graphical interface. I'm trying to be as similar to Igor as possible, so people who know how to use Igor can also use pyIrena without much of a challenge. So there's a tabbed interface. All the behavior is trying to be as similar as possible. Now, this data selector, as it's called, basically allows you to, for example, create a graph. Sorry, it opens outside. So here is a graph of the data from the selected file. You can actually select all of them and hit create a graph, and you will get all of them. So here are various samples measured on that. Please know that each one of these graphs, every single graph in pyIrena, has an extensive right-click menus. So you can right-click in here and you can, for example, do view more. You can right-click and save it as a JPEG. You can do all sorts of other things. There's also an option save as an Igor Pro ITX file. If you save it and then save the file, double-click the file, Igor will open the file and the graph will be in front of you in Igor, so it has an export in Igor. And a few other options. There's something in export here, so you can actually save as a matplotlib image file, HDF5. There's lots of options in here. So lots of the functionality is available through a right-click option, and that should be very, very similar from tool to tool, from graph to graph. The other beautiful thing on this is zooming and moving. So if you click in and drag, so I'm just holding left button down and dragging around, it moves. If you click in the middle and use a wheel, you can zoom in and out. If you point here and zoom, you're going to zoom center there. If you go and point yourself to an axis, you can zoom in with the axis. You can zoom this axis. There's a lots of options which you have available with the graphs. They all come with the pyQt graph, which is what I'm using for graphical interface here. Okay, so that's just how to get graphs. Now, there are a few other utility buttons here which you can use after you have got some fits. There are the tools, so you can go in here, pick a file, hit unified fit, and then you can perform a unified fit. So you can do a fitting exactly the same way with 5 levels of unified fit with all the standard controls and everything else. I tested as much as I can, and basically you should be getting the results pretty much within the numerical uncertainties, same as in Igor. We have a modeling package. So this is the up to 10 populations of different features. Each one of these for now can be size distribution, unified fit, diffraction, peak. I'm currently wondering if I need to add the surface and mass fractals. Maybe yes, in a soon. So you get that available. Notice that occasionally things don't fit in a size, so you can occasionally need to slide up and down, and then you can drag and extend and open. There's a size distribution tool which you can use to do a size distribution. Size distribution has the regularization, maximum entropy, and total non-negative least square. It also adds a Monte Carlo method which is available in some other packages too. So now it has four different methods how to achieve results. Um, then we have the simple fits. Simple fits have what used to be in Igor in simple fits and analytical models or something like that. So you get a Guinier, you get a Porot, you get the bipolymer chain, sphere, spheroid, bibuki, Tröbner stray, you name it. All of these functions were all translated in here. Um, some of the problems I have is that some of them I don't really have data for, so I'm not 100% sure how to test them. So if you use them, please verify that they give you proper results. Not everything is tested for now. I just didn't have time yet. This is in public beta. It's not fully guaranteed yet. Um, okay. What else? If you have diffraction, oh, I ported the one of the 3D methods, which is called SaxMorph, so you can actually generate a 3D distribution of second phase from a small angle scattering here. Um, that's also in Igor, and it's now also in here. There's a powder diffraction tool. We have a scattering contrast calculator, which is even better than the one in Igor because it uses modern libraries for both neutron and X-ray data, which are not available in Igor. And it has a smarter way of inserting the formulas. So you can use a direct formula, or you can use a fractions, weight fractions formula, which are slightly more convenient than what Igor has. Um, and then there's a fractal model here, so you can generate fractals. There's a merge, so you can actually go in and you can do a merging of data sets with, basically following the same thing as we had in Igor. There's a data manipulation where you can uh, pick a data set and then you can do various things. You can scale, trim, rebin, average, subtract, and divide. So you can do all sorts of things in here which you could do in Igor too. There's an HDF5 viewer which will be rewritten a little bit soon, but that gives you access to the HDF5 files in which the data are stored. So if you're interested to see how the data are stored and want to extract some of the values, this is a tool which you can use for it. And then so every one of these tools, every one of these fit tools, that from the unified fit down to SaxMorph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tools, every one of them can be run as a script. So you can run them as a script. They can be also run as a script from other packages. So you can actually create a JSON file in each one of them. You can export the final configuration, and then you can run with that configuration. You can call pyIrena headless without anything, just as a Python function, and it will append the results into the file. And so there's a manage configuration button which lets you configure the JSON file inside that folder. All of this is available, and there are graphing packages here, graphing outputs here, and there are reports and everything else. All of this is described by the documentation. I will not go in details today. This is going to be very short. I want to finish basically now just saying it exists, and if you need to get to it, you just hit this help button, and it will open the documentation on the website, which was written by AI while we were developing the package. So all the documentation should be hopefully close to up to date, and it's a relatively good documentation. Technically, it's perfect. I would need to write a real human manual with words, pictures, and examples eventually. But technically, if you need to know what happens, what those things do, all of the information should be there. If it's not, let me know, and I will eventually put it there. That's actually relatively easy to fix. So overall, I just want to say that the pyIrena is now available. I have users who are using it already. I know about many cases where people just, were happy about being able to download and run it. I have some feedback coming in occasionally that things work or don't work or some things needs to be added, which I welcome because adding and modifying the features is actually not that difficult. Everything is done by AI, by Claude, and all I need to do is request and then verify and verify and verify. But anyway, so overall, for those of you who, for one reason or another, cannot use Igor code, which is for now the primary tool and will probably stay that way for some time, um, there is another option which provides the same tools, similar graphics, hopefully similar capabilities, and it's free and it works on every platform. For example, at the Beamline, we run this on Linux and it works perfectly fine. So that's a convenient advantage that we don't depend on platform anymore. We don't depend on other packages because all of the tools in Python I'm using are pretty much standard, rudimentary, NumPy, Qt, as simple and as basic without requiring any large packages to be installed on your computer. Anyway, so that was the introduction. Um, Keep in mind that it's a public beta, and if you need help with it or something doesn't work, let me know. I will look at it and we'll fix it together. Okay? Well, thank you very much. Just a reminder, if you need to find it, the easiest way is to go back to my use homepage or do a search on me and a USEX instrument or me and an Irena. It will get you to the software tab here, and then inside here you get an Irena Nika pyIrena, and the pyIrena then walks you through what needs to be done and what can be done, and there is a link to the repository where you have all the necessary details. Well, thank you very much, good luck, and let me know whatever good, bad, or whatever wishes, whatever happens. Okay, thank you.